Dee Warner was 52 years old, a wife, a mother, a woman who by 2021 had finally made up her mind. She was done. The marriage was over. The businesses would be sold. She had told her husband Dale exactly that the night before she disappeared. And the next morning, she was gone. For 3 years, nobody could prove what happened. For 3 years, Dale Warner continued farming his land in Tecumseh, Michigan, while his wife's family demanded answers, held vigils, and fought to keep her name in the news. And for 3 years, Dee Warner was right there on that property, the entire time welded inside a fertilizer tank, wrapped in a tarp, duct tape over her face, still in her pajamas. This is one of the most calculated cover-ups in recent American true crime history. Dale and Dee Warner had been married since 2006. On the surface, they were a prominent farming family in Lenawee County, Michigan, operating farming and trucking businesses out of their property on Munger Road in Franklin Township. But by 2021, that surface had cracked completely. The marriage had deteriorated into something more like a hostile business arrangement. They fought daily about money, about loans, about the struggling trucking company, about their children. Their own nanny testified that by that point, the relationship had become purely transactional, and Dale was suspicious, obsessively so. He had a worker clone Dee's phone. He had another employee install a GPS tracker on her Hummer. And between January 2020 and April 2021 alone, he used a mobile app to check the location of Dee's Cadillac Escalade over 2,100 times. That's not suspicion. That's surveillance. That's a man who needed to know where his wife was every single hour of every single day. He also kept detailed notes. Investigators found them later documenting Dee's activities, her opinions, her private text conversations. In the weeks before she disappeared, a massage therapist noticed marks on Dee's body, a bruise that looked like a handprint, and Dee was telling people she was done. Not just venting done, she had made up her mind, she wanted a divorce, and she wanted to sell the trucking business. The night before she vanished, they had their worst argument yet. Dale had told a farm worker that Dee was on Xanax. Dee found out. She confronted him, and in that argument, she told him clearly the marriage was over, and the businesses were going up for sale. The prosecutor later told the jury she made up her mind. She was tired and done. The next morning, April 25th, 2021, Dee Warner was gone. Dee's adult children reported her missing that same evening. She hadn't been seen since early that morning. Her phone last connected to a cell tower near the Munger Road property at 7:14 a.m. After that, nothing. 75 calls came in to her phone that day. Not one was answered. Lenawee County Sheriff's deputies launched a search. The FBI assisted. Search teams covered thousands of acres across multiple Warner properties. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Nothing. Dale Warner, meanwhile, was behaving strangely. He didn't participate in search efforts. He gave investigators multiple conflicting accounts about where Dee was last seen and what she had been doing.
This time, she put her wedding ring in my desk.
And drone footage captured him using a backhoe loader to move a rusted fertilizer tank from a burn pile, and this happened right after he learned police were about to bring cadaver dogs onto the property. He also told a family member he was repainting tanks in the middle of the night because he couldn't sleep. When investigators later seized over 100 electronic devices from the property, they found something that shifted everything. On Dale's iPad, there were searches for how to dispose of a 1,000-gallon propane tank, searches for chemical cremation, searches for what is liquid cremation and why is it illegal. And this one detail is hard to wrap your head around: searches for dating sites for widows. His wife had been missing for weeks, and Dale Warner was searching for widow dating sites. In 2022, the Lenawee County Sheriff's Office handed the investigation over to the Michigan State Police. The case went cold publicly, but investigators never stopped building it. Then in August 2024, over 3 years after Dee disappeared, detectives got their break. Surveillance footage from April 25th, 2021 showed Dale Warner gathering welding equipment on the same day Dee went missing. Investigators began searching for tanks on Warner properties that appeared to have been re-welded after the fact. At a storage property on Paragon Road in Tipton, several miles from the main farm, they found it, tank number 34. It had a weld on it that, as prosecutors put it, no tank would come from the factory like. It was tagged "Bad Dip Tube, Do Not Use," and stored separately from every other container on the property. Investigators x-rayed it. Then they used a camera to look inside. Dee Warner was in there, still in her pajamas, wrapped in 2 blue tarps, duct tape over her face and neck, her hands and legs bound. Dale's fingerprint was found on the ammonia sticker on the outside of the tank. The medical examiner later determined Dee died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. Bruises on her temples and the back of her head. He had beaten her, strangled her, wrapped her in a tarp, hidden her body in a safe first, then at some point used a backhoe to move the tank, welded it shut around her, repainted it, and stored it miles away with a "Do Not Use" tag on it. And then he kept farming for 3 years. Dale Warner was charged with murder in November 2023, before Dee's body was even officially found. His trial began in February 2026 and ran for 5 weeks across 12 days of testimony with 35 witnesses. Dale did not testify. The defense argued the case was entirely circumstantial. No bloodstain had ever been found on the property. No direct evidence of the killing itself. 7 other people were on the farm that day, and none of them had noticed anything. The jury deliberated for 9 hours over 2 days. On March 10, 2026, they found Dale Warner guilty of second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. He buckled slightly when the verdict was read. He looked down. He became teary-eyed. In the gallery, Dee's family quietly cried and held each other. At sentencing on May 7, 2026, Dee's family finally got to speak directly to the man who had done this. Dee's daughter, Rickel Bach, stood before the court and said he brutally beat her, strangled her, and as if that was not enough, he duct-taped her hands and mouth. He wrapped her in a tarp and hid her in a tank and tried to conceal who he really was. He took away a beautiful soul.
He brutally beat her, strangled her, and then, as if that was not enough, he duct-taped her hands and mouth. He wrapped her in tarp and hid her in a tank and tried to conceal the truth of who he really was.
Dee's brother, Greg Hardy, who had spent 5 years running a campaign called Justice for Dee, fighting when investigators seemed to make no progress, never letting her name go quiet, stood up and called Dale Warner a narcissistic, psychopathic liar and murderer. "You are a spineless piece of human debris."
That Dale John Warner, you're a narcissistic, psychopathic liar and murderer. Your lack of any remorse for brutally killing my sister is unforgivable and deserves to be punished by the fullest extent of the law, and you certainly deserve more. You are a spineless piece of human debris.
Dee's sister-in-law removed a bracelet from her wrist that she had worn every single day since Dee went missing. She placed it on the podium. She said she was taking it off because we got justice.
Dee knew we would fight to the end, and we won. And now I'm going to remove my bracelet that I've worn since Dee was missing because we got justice. Thank you.
Judge sentenced Dale Warner to a minimum of 31 years in prison, up to 60, for second-degree murder, plus an additional 10 years for tampering with evidence, to be served consecutively. He will be eligible for parole in 33 years. He is 58 years old now. What makes this case so deeply unsettling isn't just what Dale Warner did. It's how long he got away with it. 3 years of searching. 3 years of Dee's family holding vigils, giving interviews, pleading for answers. 3 years of Dale Warner living on the same property where his wife's body was sealed in a tank. He didn't panic. He didn't flee. He stayed. He kept farming. He searched for widow dating sites. He moved equipment around when the police came close. He painted over the evidence. This was a man who believed completely that he was going to get away with it. The thing that caught him wasn't a confession. It wasn't a witness. It was his own digital footprint, those searches, that surveillance footage, that fingerprint on a tank he thought nobody would ever look inside. Dee Warner deserved better than 3 years in a tank on her own farm, but her brother fought for 5 years to make sure the story didn't end there, and it didn't.